What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Saturdays in the SEC, episode 130. We're absolutely jam-packed tonight, recapping week four, previewing week five. Got some huge matchups, obviously, on the docket this week with Alabama and Georgia leading the way. Going to be an unbelievable night in Tuscaloosa on Saturday night. But we're going to jump into our week four recaps first. Going to start out in Starkville with Florida and Mississippi State. I mean, we talked about it. This was a Florida team that desperately needed a win, desperately needed a performance kind of in the right direction. That's what they got on Saturday in Starkville. I mean, obviously not perfect, wasn't great defensively, but all in all, we were kind of talking during this game. I mean, Florida just had a different level of athlete than Mississippi State has. Florida, for all their struggles, still has, pretty good athletes relative to most of the country. I know things are not going super well there now, but yeah, definitely a different caliber athlete than Mississippi State has. Thought Graham Mertz looked, pretty comfortable, was operating things well. They really just went in there and handled business. Blake Shapen, left this game early, and unfortunately, he's out for the season, which is a tough blow
tough.
for Mississippi State. But
And him, I believe he was a senior, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, so that obviously a really, tough blow for him, tough blow for Mississippi State. I guess to look at it from the state perspective, this is definitely a rebuilding year. Everybody knew that coming in. The results so far have bared that out. So I guess this gives them an opportunity to play some young guys, scout for the future, get some freshmen, some sophomores, some reps, and be able to kind of build on the future, because that's really what they're looking to do. Just put building blocks together, because they don't have the athlete they need in there right now. I like some of the receivers though. Mario Craver, from around our hometown here in the Birmingham area, has really flashed for Mississippi State so far. So they like him a lot. Got some other young receivers that have done some good things, but from the Florida perspective, they handled business. It was a positive step in the right direction, even though it was a bottom tier team in the SEC. But I thought the main thing though was you saw Florida, even though the execution wasn't great in a lot of places, I thought the effort was really there, which is one of the main things I wanted to see is how hard were they going to be playing. Looks like everybody's still fighting hard, still all in on this season, even though things haven't went the way they wanted to so far. It doesn't seem at all that Billy Napier's lost that locker room. Those guys are still fighting. Execution leaves a lot to be desired in certain areas, but they're still fighting. There's a long way to go. So it was a good step in the right direction for them based on what we've seen so far.
Absolutely. Definitely a good step in the right direction, but I hate to break it to them, man. It's going to come to a screeching halt in a few weeks. They got UCF, Tennessee, Georgia coming up, LSU. I may have missed a team within there, but Mississippi State was about as balanced as you could be. They ran for 240, threw for 240. But if you're allowing this Mississippi State team to run the ball for 240 yards against you, the next few weeks are going to be ugly. Okay, so all right. So after this, they have a bye week, and then they have UCF, who runs the football, Tennessee, who's going to run the football, Kentucky runs the ball, and then you got Georgia, Texas, and LSU after that. So the stretch is coming. They need this bye week bad, but after coming out of their bye week, man, it's going to be tough for Billy Napier. Number one, to keep morale in the locker room, but number two, to keep his job. I mean, they've pretty much written him off. But Mississippi State kept it interesting early. I mean, I like their fight, and then when Blake Shapen got hurt, that really was pretty. I mean, it was over before that, but that was pretty much the dagger, and Mississippi State was done after that. But they showed some fight for sure. They didn't lay down. But Florida, man, their defense, like I said, to allow this Mississippi State team to run for over 200 yards against you, that's tough. That is, you're in for a world of hurt come these next few weeks, and it's probably going to be the narrative is not going to be good down there in the swamp here in about 2 or 3 weeks. We've all predicted here on this show that we don't think Billy Napier is going to be trick or treating in Gainesville this year. So I think that's going to come to fruition. I think if he loses to UCF, he's done. He's canned. So he's got about 2 more weeks left in Gainesville. If, in my opinion, maybe they can beat UCF. I just don't see it happening. That's my biggest takeaway from this game was not really anything bad about Mississippi State. Like you said, they're in a rebuilding year. You worded it perfectly, but it's more of, man, how bad is it about to get for Florida? Because this offense is able to move the ball down the field. They had some mistakes and things along those lines, turnovers, but they're able to move the ball down the field. These other teams they're not. They're way better off than Mississippi State. So it's going to be tough here the next few weeks for Florida.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we know how backloaded that schedule is and how tough it is in general. But, like I
They don't have
said,
another breather till the end of the year when they play Florida State.
yeah, so it's going to be tough sled, and there's no doubt about it. I don't think this changed anything as far as his status or anything like that. But I guess I thought the main takeaway was, hey, they're still fighting hard, which they should be. I mean, it's still September, so I mean, I didn't necessarily expect them to have it packed in that fast, but yeah, I thought it was good. They fought hard, and like I said, just a little undisciplined in the rush lanes on defense. Like you noted, they gave up a ton of rushing yards, and that's not going to play very well against the teams they have coming up. But all in all, they got to 2-2, and go into the bye week with a little momentum and get the naysayers off Billy Napier's back for 5 minutes at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously there's a game. It had a lot of action. You'd say money wise for sure. There was a lot of action going on this game with the books, and then it was one of the bigger games talked about in the SEC. Not necessarily because of the teams playing were just jam up, but just because of the implications it had for both of these teams and how it could affect their season. And it was Arkansas and Auburn. Arkansas comes down to the Plains, and they play well. They made their own mistakes as well. It was I can't recall the game that it was LSU. No, South Carolina and LSU. Yeah, a few weeks ago, I said that was one of the sloppiest games I've seen. Scratch that. That was a pearl compared to what we watched on Saturday. Both sides of the ball, Arkansas and Auburn, both. It was a sloppy game. But Arkansas, man, Taylor Green, really the big part of their offense is Auburn's defense couldn't contain the quarterback. If they could have contained the quarterback, Auburn would have shut them down. But other than that, Auburn's defense played extremely well. They did about all you could ask them to do. They can only stay out there and put up stands for so long. Eventually, the dam's going to break, and they're going to give up some points. When your offense is going out there and Auburn's offense is going out there and turning over, every other drive, back to back. We turn the ball over, Auburn turns the ball over, then Arkansas turns the ball, Arkansas turns the ball over, Auburn turns the ball over, Arkansas turns it back over, or vice versa, whatever it was. There was like 3 picks in a matter of 6 plays. It was just a sloppy game. But the biggest complaint from me is Jarquez Hunter had 12 carries all game. 12. The guy is the best player on the team, hands down, no doubt about it. You maybe could argue some guys on the defensive side of the ball, maybe 1 or 2, but on the offensive side of the ball, no question, Jarquez Hunter is the guy. Why is he getting the ball 12 times? I get their RPOs, and you got to take what the defense gives you, but how about this? Let's cut out the RPOs sometimes and just run it. Just hand it to 27. Just write down on the play card, give ball to 27. I guarantee you it's going to turn out better most times or more times than not. That's the biggest thing. Obviously, the interceptions, they're whatever they are. They're driving me nuts by this point, but completely different situation of you're not giving your best player, you're not putting the ball in your best player's hand as much as you can. There was a stat came out. He played 38 of the 61 snaps of offense. Unreal, ridiculous. I mean, we are in SEC play now. no need to rest him anymore. We got to ride him. There's only one way, to get there. You got to win, and he's the best chance Auburn's got. So ride 27, but not him. Him only playing 38 to 61. That needs to be more like 45 plus, 45, 50 plus, easy. He's old enough. He's got plenty of stamina to be able to take it. He'll be fine. Damari Austin fumbling the ball going into the end zone. Everybody's saying he was going in the end zone. Like I said to Cameron, you can make the argument that he might have got hawked from the guy on his back right, and he'd have been down at the 1 yard line. I still like Auburn's chances of punching it in on the 1 yard line. I really do. But my big complaint there, Damari Austin's good. You got to have him. I know certain formations have certain players in there, whatever. You give him a defensive look. I get it. Why is 27 not getting the ball there? Why is 27? We're on our side of the 50. We're inside field goal range. Why is 27 not getting the ball? There's no excuse for that. He should be the only running back playing in the first half. I know the other guys are good, but he is not getting used enough, and it's driving me nuts. It's driving a lot of Auburn fans nuts. And then, obviously, the interceptions are bad. It's Hank Brown's second start ever, first SEC start. Obviously, some mistakes are going to happen. Made some bad reads. The last interception, I feel like he made the right read. He just led him too far. He just threw it a little too far. The guy was open. He just threw it too far. First read, had to check down wide open. Made a bad decision. Interception. Peyton Thorne's interception, I don't think was his fault. Ball was a little bit out in front. I still think Cam Coleman should have caught it, hit him right in the hands. You got to catch that ball. So not on him. That extends the drive as well. And then Hank Brown's the other interception he threw. Aaron Murray did another breakdown on it. It was really good. He said that he understands why the pick happened because you're looking at the tight end going up the seam and the slot receiver, and you're expecting if the linebacker or whoever that guy, I'm not sure exactly if he was a linebacker or safety or cornerback. I don't know. I don't remember. But if there's a certain guy on defense, and I'm not sure which position he plays, but if he used to chase and turn his tail against the tight end and he's to chase, you throw it to the tight end. Well, as soon as he turned his back, Peyton threw it, or Hank threw it to the tight end, and right as he was throwing it, that defensive player just put on the brakes and turned around, and Aaron Murray was like, he's not, that's usually not what he does. I can understand this is a forgivable interception because he saw the right thing. The defensive guy just made a good play. So just bad timing, whatever it is, what it is. But that has obviously got to be coached better. There's been a lot of buzz going around saying that Hugh Freeze is throwing his players under the bus. I'm pretty critical of Auburn coaches. I did not take it that way at all. I know people interpret things different ways. But yesterday in his media presser, everybody, Kalen DeBoer has one at 1 o'clock every Monday, and Hugh has one at 11 o'clock every Monday. But in the press conference, he said or alluded to coaching them better about 8 times. I counted it, about 8 times. But he said in the first 5 minutes, for sure, flat out, we have to coach them better. He said that twice, for sure. I can give you at the 3:48 mark and at the 4:48 mark. He says obviously we got to coach them better, and we've got to do a better job of coaching them. He says that outright. In no way does any of this sound like he's throwing a player under the bus. He's just telling fact. He says, we fumble the ball going into the end zone. That's a big swing. That hurts us. Yeah, that does. He's not saying anything he's not going to say to the kid's face, and he's not throwing him under the bus. He's just stating fact. He's not saying at all the Peyton Thorne is the reason we lost. Hank Brown is the reason we lost. Damari's the reason we lost. He's saying all these mistakes that are being made compiled into one, these are the reasons we're losing. It's frustrating. We have to do a better job of doing this. The game plan is there. The game plan's right, and he is correct about that because like I stated earlier, I'm not sure if I said it when we were recording, but Auburn is leading the nation in pass explosive pass plays. They're getting more than 6 yards a rush per carry. They're just under Bama Bama's at number 6 in total offense in the SEC. Auburn's at number 7, just barely under them. So you can see that it's there. It's just the execution of not throwing interceptions or not fumbling the football. That's what's there. And obviously he knows he's got to do a better job of coaching that. He said that. He's not blaming these guys. But the questions that he's being asked, he's just telling the flat-out truth. Nothing that he has said in any of his press conferences has been wrong, except for when he said yesterday on Tiger Talk or whatever the show was.
That's what
he said, if we play Arkansas 9 more times, we win 9 of those games. You can't say that. You just got beat. You don't say that. It is a little disrespectful. But other than that, I didn't agree with that. I thought that was atrocious. You shouldn't say that, Hugh. You look like an idiot saying that for sure. But other than that, I don't think anything he has said has been attacking a player or throwing a player under the bus. And everybody saying that, I feel like he's just trying to get it to try and stir the pot a little bit. I don't think the players are taking it that way. If they are, that's the problem in and of itself. But I digress. It was very frustrating. Hats off to Arkansas though, but they did not look. Yeah, Sam Pittman got the win. It's helping get him off the hot seat a little bit more, but they didn't look good either. They got a lot of work to do as well. Auburn's defense, man. It's the same. I mean, stop me if you've heard this before, Cam. They looked fantastic, but they were out there for 55, 60% of the game. So they got no rest, and eventually it breaks late, and they give up a late touchdown, and it's just too little too late for Auburn's offense when they finally decide to start scoring. Well, that's been the story since the 2017 season. I'm telling you, it's the same old, same old. Defense looks phenomenal. I like DJ Durkin's plan. I like the way he's attacking. I think their third down defense, though, that's a little atrocious. The third and longs that they gave up, pretty bad. I think the defense's biggest problem is more discipline and being disciplined rather than execution. They execute well. They just get undisciplined when Taylor Green starts to run and they get their ass caught in the backfield and get beat over the top. Didn't happen quite as much this week as it did last week, but it still happened, and Taylor Green took advantage of it. There was no quarterback contained the whole game, so Taylor Green was just running for his life, doing whatever he wanted to do. And then 2 times on third and 10 or longer, that we gave them a free 15 with a late hit out of bounds, and then another flag. I can't remember what the other penalty was, but gave them another fresh set of downs. So just extended the drive where they ended up going down and scoring and taking the lead to win it all. So it's just mental mistakes on their side. They got to clean that up, obviously. But they're playing their ass off, man. I mean, their energy is amazing. I like what I see from their defense, or from Auburn's defense for sure. Offense has definitely got to pick it up. It's there. Just got to execute. Got to figure out why the reads are being made wrong, what the quarterbacks see, and why are they seeing that. And more importantly, hand the ball to number 27, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again, because that's a recipe for success. But obviously, Arkansas's defense played extremely well, had 5 turnovers, 4 turnovers, whatever it was. 4 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. So hats off to them, because obviously they're doing their part too. So that, I mean, they played great. They're a much better ball club than they were last year for sure. Their offense is that they ran the ball pretty well too. I think they're a much better ball club than they were last year. I hope that that's good enough to save Sam Pittman's job. They got a really tough schedule. They got a tough schedule coming up. I think them and Auburn are pretty much, like we said, this is going to be the game deciding the 11th place, 10th place SEC team, 12th place, whatever. I think they're in the same boat there, but I think their product is much better than last year. I think you're seeing signs of that and seeing evidence of that. And so I hope that that's enough to save Sam Pittman's job. But if it's not, I bet we see Petrino as the head man next year, back in Arkansas as the head man.
Yeah, kind of my takeaways from the game. I mean, you highlighted a lot of it. I thought with Taylor Green, you stated Auburn's defense played well enough to win this game. When you turn the ball over 5 times, obviously you're rarely ever going to win, especially in the SEC. I think what makes it a little worse for Auburn is knowing that, Arkansas didn't. It's not like Arkansas came in there and played their A game and beat you. They didn't play their best either. They turned it over multiple times, but thought there was times where Auburn's defense was in pretty good position and Taylor Green just made a play. I mean, his legs bailed them out so many times. I mean, you've seen
I think
that.
they had 9 third down conversions or something like that. Egregious.
Yeah. I don't know how many were with his legs, but I'd be willing to bet it was a good percentage of those.
Well, they might not have all ended with his legs, but they all started with his legs for sure. And that's when the DBs got caught with their eyes in the backfield and they got burned.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to be able to extend plays, eats up yards quickly at 6'6". That was really a big difference in the game. Just him being able to extend plays. as you said, making some throws, keeping his eyes down the field, or taking off and getting a first down. On
He's
third
good
down.
now. No disrespect. He's damn good.
Yeah, I mean, he played well. I mean, there were some mistakes and some things to clean up in the passing game for him because he's still not a great passer, um, but yeah, he did a lot of things and bailed them out of some big third downs to keep drives alive and that they would ultimately end up punching in. Kind of from the Auburn perspective, like you said, the turnovers, I mean, have gotten completely out of hand. The interceptions, and you stated too, a couple of them were some good plays by the defense. I mean, that does happen. And obviously the quarterbacks are the big punching bags after the way they played and when you're not having success. But I mean, it's a total offensive effort. I mean, the O line's very inconsistent. It has times where they're not clicking at all. Um, and I think too I don't think the receivers and tight ends block as well in the run game as they need to. I think so. I think it's a total team effort from the offensive line and out on the perimeter to get that run game going a little bit more. And like you said, I just don't think even when it's not working a little bit, they need to stick with it more and keep going with it. I think, and I'm gonna get into it a little bit with Tennessee, but didn't really click early for Tennessee, but they kept hanging with it, and it ultimately paid off. And I just think Auburn is a little quick to go away from it. I think that's why you're not seeing Jarquez get the carries he needs. He's only averaging 12 carries a game so far because they're just not sticking with it quite enough, and the execution's got to be better from across the board, perimeter,
Right.
offensive line to be able to get it going and be able to stick with it a little bit more. But that's kind of
I
what
get
I
late in
saw.
the game, you got to pass it late in the game if you're down. I get that. Late in the game against Cal, late in the game this past week against Arkansas, I get that. But you shouldn't be in that situation because he should be getting the ball 12 times by halftime, not by fourth quarter. But continue. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, yeah, I just think you need to stick with it a little bit more, like you said earlier in the game, maybe to. I know the backs. Austin's been fumbling some and stuff, but you would think keeping the ball a little bit more secure. Hopefully, you can hang on to it. Um, Not have to maybe play from behind quite as much. Yeah, but it's just a execution thing. That when you're that negative in the turnover margin, you're not going to win, especially in this league. And that was really the main difference. I mean, if they don't turn it over 5 times, if they turn it over 2 times, they probably win the game. That's just kind of where they're at right now. The turnovers got to get cleaned up, and I still think if they can clean that up and clean up some of the execution, I still think they can surprise somebody. Like I think that's kind of how they're going to be this year. There's a lot of tough results the rest of the way. Like it's not going to be a great season, obviously,
No, not at
but
all.
I would not be surprised though if they didn't maybe beat somebody you wouldn't expect. Like you said, the underlying stats are kind of there. You just can't turn the ball over at that kind of clip. Um, but yeah, and I think when you're relying on so many young players too, a lot of young wide receivers, his first true recruiting class. So you're going to have some variation in performance when you're playing a lot, when leaning on some younger classmen guys. Because I mean, honestly, the upper class there is not much upperclassmen talent on this team. Like all the guys that are going to play at the next level and really have a future in football are freshmen and sophomores. They're not. There's not many junior and seniors. Like this is the talent is young on this football
If they
team.
are, they transferred in, like Keandre Lambert Smith, Jaron Thompson, people along those lines. Jalen McLeod, but he's on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, for sure, there's not many.
Yeah, I just think your upper tier like NFL draft type talent is all younger guys,
Yeah.
for the most part. So there's just not a ton of upper class talent on the team. Even with some of the transfers, there's a few guys, but it's not at the level that they're working
Yeah,
towards getting
for
to.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think obviously, I mean, it's going to be a tough year. There's no doubt. but at the same time, wouldn't be shocked. Like, wouldn't be shocked if they beat Oklahoma this week. Um, I mean, I would not shock me a bit. I just think there's going to be some variation in performance a little bit. But if they can get the turnovers cleaned up, you can hang in some of these games against better competition. But it's got to get cleaned up, execution across the board. I agree with what you said about his comments. I didn't have any problem with what he said. What you said with the radio show, I agree with that. I just there's no gain in saying that. There's
It's
no
a bad
positive
look.
in
It's a
saying
bad
you're gonna
look.
beat them. Not like when you're not executing well at all. It doesn't make any sense to say that. Um,
Because next year, if Auburn loses, you're going to hear about it. And then if you win the next year, you're not going to hear about it. But then the next year, if you lose, you're going to hear about it. And then in 10 years, if you lose, you're going to hear about it. It's not a good look. It's just why even say, I get what you're trying to say.
yeah,
Say
me
it in
too.
a much different way. There is much different ways to say that where you don't even have to drag Sam Pittman's name into it. He attached Sam Pittman's name to it at the beginning.
Yeah,
There's so many different ways you could have gone about that without doing any of that, but getting the same message across.
yeah, yeah. Like, hey,
You've been in this profession long enough. Like, come on. But
yeah, yeah.
other than that, I'm cool.
No, I didn't have a problem with his press conference comments. I didn't have any issue with that. I mean, obviously, people are gonna, everybody's looking for an angle to poke some fun and stir the pot. I mean, that's part of
For
what
sure.
makes it fun too. Is
For
everybody,
sure.
that happens all the time. But I didn't have any problem with it at all either. But yeah, big one. Obviously another key game against Oklahoma this week. We'll get into that preview here shortly. Um, did want to get your thoughts though on Mizzou-Vandy. Um, you know, uh, Vandy we've seen from them obviously beating Virginia Tech, losing to Georgia State, now playing Missouri close. I mean, it's a really scrappy team. Like the product that Florent Lee's got going there. I mean, that's definitely a lot more competitive football team than we've seen out of Vandy. Definitely trending in the right direction. What do you think from this? What were your takeaways from the Missouri Vandy game?
Diego Pavia, dog. I know they ended up losing the game, but he did everything they asked him to do and some. I thought Missouri definitely, they got their questions now. A lot of people were high on them, and I don't think anybody should be any less high on them. But I think that they were getting a lot of credit and a lot of praise this year that wasn't quite there for them. I think they definitely got their wake up call. I don't think that they'll be playing as bad as they did this week, but you also got to tip your caps to Vandy. They made some plays, man. Their defense was out there ready to play. They had a great scheme and great plan ready to attack Missouri's offense. But in the end, it comes down to a missed kick. You'll take it any way you can get it. I know Eli Drinkwitz had a huge sigh of relief when he missed. You hate that for the kicker, but man, Vandy coming in as a 20.5 point underdog and taking them down to double overtime. I thought, man, Clark Lee has done just about everything that he can do at Vanderbilt. Like you said, this is a much better team, much more scrappy team. Definitely prepared to get out there and get after it. And I thought for sure, I thought about halftime that Vandy was going to find a way to win the game just because they kept hanging around and kept hanging around. And when that happens, usually the team that's not supposed to be there finds a way to get it done. But luckily for Missouri and Drinkwitz and his crew, they weren't able to find the way, but they were right there at it. And man, I hate that it came down to a field goal to decide it. I really do. I wish we could have seen the offense duke it out, but it is the way it is. But I really hate that it came down to a field goal. It wouldn't have ended the game, but it would have extended it, and we could have got to see a little bit more. I hate that it came down to that. We would have gotten to I think it would have been the first time this year that we would have got to see the alternating 2-point conversions, which is whack to me, but I think it would have been the first time we got to see that. It's a little extra excitement there. But really, I'm super proud of Vanderbilt and from where they've come and how they're playing now. I mean, where Clark Lee was his first year, this is his, I believe, third or fourth season there now. He's done a well of a job because the talent that he has, it's hardest job in the SEC for sure, in my opinion, because it's You're academically, pinned from who you can get in there.
Yeah.
And then when you get guys in there that are good and they make an impact on your team, well, the next year they're playing against you in Athens or in Auburn or in Bama. Like it's so hard to retain the talent there because of what comes along with it. It's so hard to win there, and you're not really competing for championships there. So the guys that are good enough to get you to that level, they don't stick around. They dip out because not many are coming. They're not coming by the busloads like they are down there in Tuscaloosa and in Athens. So it's a tough place to win, but I respect what Clark Lee's done. And man, Saturday, I wanted it so bad for Vanderbilt, but they couldn't. They just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, they fought really hard. I mean, um, thought they did a lot of good things in the game. I came away from the game. I wouldn't, when you're Missouri, you're a top 10 team in the rankings, and you have this close of a call with Vanderbilt. But I wasn't like down on them after this game. I mean, I thought Vandy did a lot of good things. I think Brady Cook's not playing as well as you'd like him to. Like he missed some plays there. A little, inconsistent at times. But man, they ran the football well. Nerlens Noel, they kind of run that stretch play that's been really effective for him, where he's kind of able to cut it back. Just I liked some of the things I saw with that. But I didn't come away like crazy, negative on Missouri. I don't think they're tier one in the SEC. Like I don't think they're on Georgia, Bama, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee level. I don't honestly. I don't think they're a top 10 team. I think they're more like 15th, 16th, something like that. I mean,
Right
really,
now,
really
anyway,
good
for
team.
sure. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think I wouldn't say they're tier one in the SEC. I do think, like we've talked about a lot with their schedule, I think they've got a great chance though to stay in there. Like they're gonna have a great chance to have a really good record again this year, maybe even getting to double digit wins, which would be huge, and that'll have them in playoff uh, contention for sure. But I don't think they're quite as good as those tier one teams I would consider right now. But all in all, still a good team. I didn't come away like overly negative with them. Um, I was just kind of more impressed in the fight that Vandy showed, and yeah, the product there in Nashville's definitely gotten a lot better. Hats off to Clark Lee. Like those guys really, really battled.
Yeah, absolutely. And then getting into the game of the week, game days there. It's really been the big talk, the big game that everybody's talking about leading into the season. Like that's the game. Obviously Josh Heupel going back home, but it's Oklahoma's first berth into the SEC. It's their first game, but they're hosting Tennessee, and it's what's
Yeah,
Nico going to do? And oh, we expect them to be good, but we'll see. Are they quite the caliber they were 2 years ago when they took down Bama? And then first 3 weeks out of the gate, yeah, they're that good. They're those guys. They're scoring 60 plus, 50 plus, whatever they are. And then they come in here and they meet this buzzsaw of a defense in Oklahoma. And like you said early on, it really wasn't working out for them. But they, like you said, they stuck to it. They stuck to it, and it eventually opened up. And I said last week on the podcast, I said I think that Tennessee is going to win and cover because I think that they're going to be able to hit more shot plays because of the way their offense is designed. There's always going to be one open. They're going to lure you to death and run the ball and pull you in and lull you to sleep with the run. And they're going to hit you over the top. And that's exactly what they did. They finally found that big shot on that post and took it to the house. I knew right then when he scored that touchdown, I was like, it's over with because their defense was playing out of their minds. I mean, we've talked about, that's pretty much the last 3 years when we've been doing the pod, we've talked about that's what Tennessee's lacking. It's their defense. That's their weakest link. Not that it's bad, but that's their weakest link. If they can get that, they're going to be good. And then they got it, and they proved, man, that they were a force to be reckoned with. And Jackson Arnold had his first SEC start, did not look great. I don't think that it's just the end all or like the end for him and he's never going to play again. I think he's fine. But he did. Dylan Gabriel got pushed out of Norman for a guy who just lost his job on Saturday because I can't remember his first name, but Michael, or is it Michael?
Yeah, Michael Hawkins Jr.
Michael Hawkins. So He comes in, steals the show, is really the only bright spot Oklahoma had in the game. And he'd have played the whole game. There's never known what could have happened because in that second half, he was electric, man. And he took him down and he finally got him in the end zone. I think obviously still young, made some mistakes. He's a true freshman. But I think that, he obviously Brent Venables named the starting quarterback coming into the Auburn game. How can you not? I mean, you got to with what he did. His ability, he's a much better runner than Jackson Arnold. Probably not a better thrower, but he did just fine. No, was able to move the ball, controlled the offense really well, I thought. Jackson Arnold probably not going to play again this year unless Michael Hawkins just poo-poos the bed. But the way he played against Tennessee, I don't see that happening. I think he's a star. Reminded me a lot of Caleb Williams coming in for Spencer Rattler and him still in the show in the second half. I think it was against Texas. And then from there on, he took off, and it was just that was all she wrote. It reminded me a lot of that. He's got a lot of that type of charisma and that type of excitement, that big playability. But Tennessee, man, they just dominated straight up. Both sides of the football, line of scrimmage, where it all starts, they dominated the line of scrimmage. Oklahoma's defense was really good, held them to 26 points or 25 points. And they've been averaging 40 plus. But I thought, to me, and I could be seeing this completely wrong, I thought Tennessee took their foot off the gas in the second half. I really did. Because they were up big. I mean, Oklahoma had a late score. For the most part, they were up 21-3 or 22-3. So I felt like in the second half, they took their foot off the gas and they just ran the ball, 8 chunks of the clock, and then punted it back. And then they'd get the ball back and they'd run the ball, 8 chunks of clock, and they'd punt it back. I mean, I feel like this could have been a lot uglier than it was. I feel like Heupel was showing respect to Oklahoma, not going to run the score up on them. And that's what it felt like to me. I thought the second half we saw a completely different Tennessee offense. I know you don't want to show everything, but to me it felt like a much more watered-down version of what we got in the first half. Am I a little off on that, or did you get kind of the same sense? Because they were in control of the game. There was no need to try to throw it around. You don't want to throw interceptions. They were running the ball extremely well. I mean, getting 7-8 yards a pop, it seemed like. They were opening holes like Moses. But I thought they went a little conservative in the second half than what we saw in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was definitely more conservative. Kind of my broad thoughts on the game for both teams. Kind of start with Tennessee. I came away extremely impressed. I mean, these defensive line, like Tennessee's Tennessee's O line against Oklahoma's D line. I mean, it was absolutely a fist fight out there. Really fun to watch. I was crazy impressed with Tennessee's defensive front. I know, Oklahoma's got question marks on the offensive line that we talked about all offseason. Man, I was just extremely impressed with Tennessee's defense as a whole, especially the amount of guys that they have up front, way more deeper than I thought they would be. They were absolutely outstanding, caused havoc the entire game. And I think, too, like from a broad perspective, you're seeing the elevation of, Josh Heupel as a coach, Tennessee as a program. Like, Josh Heupel is a offensive guru, a guy that can explosive on offense, explosive in the pass game, good in the run game. Like, he is going to have an elite offense. But you're seeing that defense come together at an elite level, and you're seeing that program completely evolve and continue to grow into what I think is now a tier 1 SEC team, like a true SEC
no doubt
national championship contending team. Like they're playing complementary football. And to me, like I came away even honestly more impressed with Tennessee because they're showing the elevation as a program. They can win in multiple ways. They're not just going to win one way. They showed they can win this game in a totally different way than they normally would or that you would expect they would. I mean, they won this game with their defensive front. Oklahoma could not do much at all. I think, like you said, in the second half, a little more conservative. I think, too, that's what I was talking about when we were discussing Auburn, but Tennessee consistently stayed with the run game. even when it wasn't super effective, they kept just hammering it. And I think you saw that pay off in the second half because they were consistent with it. Their formation, the way they line the receiver so far out to the boundary, it makes them a really effective running team. Like you think of them as this downfield passing team, and with Nico, they can do that at a high level. But man, they can do so many different things. And now to see this program be able to win games at different and in different styles at different levels, winning games with their defense, running the football, being physical, like that's not necessarily things you thought of with a Josh Heupel team, but their program's evolving to be able to do that now and complementing each other. And to be honest, I came away more impressed because I'm like, Tennessee can win, a knife fight type of a game. So I came away really just as impressed. It was a great SEC road win. I know Oklahoma's kind of a disaster on offense right now with the offensive line and the quarterback situation when Jackson Dart was in there. Turnovers have been a big issue for him. It's only his 5th career start. I think he's got 9 total turnovers. And just some bad ones too. I mean, just some not good decisions with the turnovers. I think obviously he's a very talented guy. Don't think, like you said, don't think that's the end of his career by no means. I don't know exactly what his future is at Oklahoma now. And there's a lot of people around Oklahoma hearing after this game, like, I didn't really know a ton about it, but there has been a lot of buzz around Michael Hawkins for a while now. Like the people within that program, there's a lot of people that love him. So
there was people saying that he was the best quarterback they had out of fall camp.
And I think they're going to give him every opportunity to. I think what's really tough for Oklahoma, and I think a tough pill to swallow is, I think it almost hurts more when you think you've got your quarterback situation and got your quarterback figured out, and then you realize 5 games into a season that you don't. Like, I heard Josh Pate, the guys on CBS making the kind of the comparison. It's different with Auburn, knowing you didn't have the guy to begin with, but you're Oklahoma thinking you have the guy, and you're kind of banking on it. And obviously, they didn't run Dylan Gabriel out the door, but they let him walk out the door. Like it wasn't a big deal that he left because they're like, okay, we got Jackson Arnold. We believe in him. We think he's our guy going forward the next couple of years. And then, you get 4 games in and it kind of blows up in your face. Like that's almost more of a gut punch than not having it at all. So it's kind of like now we're kind of almost back to the drawing board, so to speak. Even though Michael Hawkins is a really talented guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a tough situation to find yourself
in. And I can't rag on LSU and South Carolina and Auburn and Arkansas and act like there wasn't sloppy play in this game. It got sloppy at times. I mean, there was about a 2-minute stretch where there was 3 interceptions thrown. Oklahoma threw one, Tennessee threw one right back to them, and then Oklahoma fumbled it right on the goal line or whatever it was. There was 3 turnovers. Nobody wanted the football there for a little bit. So it was sloppy there too. I believe that was the first half. I could be wrong on that, but I believe it was the first half. It got sloppy there. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to clean up on both sides. Still early, but yes, great takeaways from both sides. I think Michael Hawkins is going to put Oklahoma in a great chance to win a lot of football games. I don't think that they're going backwards now that Jackson Arnold is not the answer that they thought he was. And he may be by the end of the year. You never know. But yeah, Tennessee, man, they just domination pure. The whole game just dominated. We ain't seen that from Tennessee since Philip Fulmer was there. So I know the Tennessee fans they're singing his praises on Rocky Top today. I can't blame him, man. He's a damn good one. And then I kind of want to touch on LSU-UCLA. No, it's not that big of a matchup. But I thought LSU really found themselves in this game. Their passing game was there, man. They were able to throw the ball around the yard. I think Nussmeier had 4 touchdowns. Three touchdowns. He threw for 3 touchdowns, so I thought their pass game was definitely there. And then they ran the ball better than I expected. I know it's UCLA, but with the way their running back room is taking hits, I mean, John Emery going down a few weeks ago with another season-ending injury. He's just had a rough career in college. Relying on some younger guys, some inexperienced guys. I thought they ran the ball extremely well for what they were asked to do. They threw the ball pretty much the whole game, but when they were asked to run the ball, I thought they did a pretty good job. Uh, I mean, not great rushing stats, a little over 100 yards, but I thought that for what that running back room is, I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, I think so too. I think just the main thing, we want to see that kind of continue to develop, take steps in the right direction. I mean, Nussmeyer at the Nuss bus is rolling down the tracks right now. It is an
Oh yeah.
absolute groove. Um, man, just you can just tell he's really feeling it. He's confident with his reads. I mean, he knows where he's going with the football. He's making really good decisions. He's not putting the ball in harm's way very often at all. Just really impressed with him. Just want to continue to see that offensive line get going more in the run game and kind of continue to develop that element of their game. And you highlighted perfectly with the running backs, John Emery going down. They've got some guys that are got some experience back there, got some younger guys, but it's been a position that's kind of bounced around a little bit, I guess you can say, trying to get that stabilized a little bit. But yeah, I thought the second half was definitely really good. But yeah, I think good takeaways from this game. You kind of look at the score and you're like, it was tied up 17-17 at one point, but kind of like with Missouri, I wasn't concerned with it. Like you look at the score and you're like, oh, 34-17, like, UCLA's not great, but thought there was a lot of good takeaways from this game. I thought their defense played pretty well. I mean, Harold Perkins going down is
That
obviously
hurts.
brutal. It's brutal for LSU. It's brutal for us SEC fans. Like he's an unbelievable talent. It's a lot of fun to watch, and seeing him go down, one of the leaders on that defense at the second level, that's definitely a tough blow. D line's kind of thin, but I think they're battling up there. Um, but all in all, I think the defense, taking positive steps in the right direction. But yeah, Harold Perkins down. That's a tough blow for all SEC fans.
Absolutely. And then leading into next week, we touched on it a little bit, but finally get to talk about the Ole Miss Rebels, man. I mean, they've basically just sleptwalked their way to week 5, excuse me. They face Kentucky. Kentucky goes to Oxford to take on Ole Miss. I mean, I like Ole Miss to win the game, but I really don't know what to think about them. Obviously, their offense is phenomenal. Their defense is playing out of their mind. They ain't allowed too many points, but like they all say, who they played. Who they played. So we're gonna find out. I think Kentucky is just some world beaters or anything. But Ole Miss opens up at a 17.5 point favorite. Over under 52.5. I feel like Vegas is just begging you to take that over. I feel like they are just begging you to take that over. I think they know something we don't. I feel like Ole Miss has scored 50 themselves every single week. The over looks enticing to me too. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like that's what Vegas is wanting to do. So if I was betting it, I'd probably go the under, just because we don't really know a whole lot about Ole Miss. We know a lot more about Kentucky than we do Ole Miss. I think their defense is much better than it was when they played South Carolina. I think if they played South Carolina this week, or if they played them another time this year, I don't think that it would be as bad of an ass whooping as it was. I think it'd be a much different ball game. I think their defensive line is. We expected them to be really good. They weren't early. I think they're a lot better now. I think they've had a pretty good games the last 2 weeks. So I expect Ole Miss to face some roadblocks this week, face their first little bit of adversity, and I'm excited to see how they answer that. Hell, I could be wrong. They might go out there and steamroll them, but I'm expecting Kentucky to put up a fight. This is a game that's easy to get up for. We saw how they played against Georgia a few weeks ago, albeit at home. But they played the number one team in the nation at the time down to the wire, making them all, crap their pants. And then now they're going to take on Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is expected to pretty much just walk all over them and not even be a game, over by halftime. That's what a lot of the feel has been to me from the media I've consumed and the things I've looked at. That's what it feels like to me. I don't know that it's going to be that. I think Ole Miss is going to win, but I don't know that it's going to be such a walk in the park that everybody's expecting. Not that Lane Kiffin and his team is expecting this as well, but the media and the way the college football world's talking, this isn't even a game you should watch. You should put money on Ole Miss and then not even think about it. You'll cash your check later. It ain't going to be that way.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued, for this game. Honestly, like you said, just I know Ole Miss is a great football team. I think they're a tier one type of SEC team. I think it's a really mature team. Jackson Dart's playing at an extremely high level. Been
No
really
doubt.
impressed with the investments they made on the defensive line. Thought those guys have looked phenomenal so far. They look really good in this past game, albeit Georgia Southern. But um, yeah, I mean, I think it's a veteran team. I think they're playing at super high level, both sides of the ball. Um, what makes it intriguing too, as you stated, with the spread being what it is. I don't know what I'm gonna get out of Kentucky. What
Yeah.
Kentucky team am I gonna get showing up?
South
Um,
Carolina or Georgia? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I really think they got a good chance to keep this competitive. But at the same time, it's like I know Ole Miss is a really good team, but I'm still unknown of exactly how good that is. Like
Right.
I know it's
Exactly.
good. I know it's really good, but just what level of good to elite is it? They haven't really played anybody to test that at all yet. Um, so I'm still really intrigued to see them, go up in competition like they are this week and how they will the rest of the way forward. But yeah, really intrigued for this game. Think Kentucky can absolutely keep it close. I mean, we've seen that. Um, how they were able to shorten the game a little bit, against Georgia, kind of limiting possessions. I think doing a similar thing is going to be key here. Um, but yeah, don't have a feel one way or another on the spread because I just feel like I'm working with incomplete information. But no, it's going to be a really exciting game to find out a lot more about both these squads, honestly. But I think I know Ole Miss is really good, but I'm curious to see once we get to step up in competition that we're kind of going to see this week.
And then we just talked about both these teams, Auburn and Oklahoma. Oklahoma has their first SEC road game coming into Jordan-Hare, which doesn't seem like too tall of a task because teams have come in there this year and won twice already, one being from across the country. So at the beginning of the season, it looked to be a lot worse for Oklahoma going on the road than it is right now. Obviously, I'm just poking a little bit of fun. I still think it's a tough place to play, obviously. But with the way Auburn's playing right now and the way Oklahoma's defense is, I don't like Auburn's chances. It is nice having Michael Haskins being named the starter. This will be his first start on the road, first SEC start, and first start on the road. So that's big. Crowd definitely going to have to play a part early, but they'll only be able to play a part in a factor in the game and how long Auburn allows them to. If they allow them to jump up 17-3 early, crowd ain't going to be worth nothing. So it's I'm expecting, like I said last week, I think Arkansas is going to beat Auburn. Take that to the bank, cash it. I think Oklahoma is going to beat Auburn. Auburn struggled mightily with the quarterback contain. They have all season. Against New Mexico, struggled with the quarterback contain. Last week against Taylor Green, struggled against quarterback contain. Michael Hawkins, excuse me, he can run it. I feel like they're going to struggle against the quarterback contain again. Downfield coverage was better this week than where it was against New Mexico. Still got beat a couple times. But I think Auburn's offense is going to be able to move the ball. Will they be able to finish drives without giving it to the other team? That's a part you can't really bank on. You don't know. The way it's looking right now, it's probably going to happen where they give it to the other team. That's just the trend that Auburn's on. But if Auburn's able to eliminate those mistakes and just execute properly, I think it'll be a good game, but I still think Oklahoma wins. If Auburn does the same way, just cuts it in half. They turn over 2 times. I think it gets to be a blowout and gets out of hand quick. Not that Oklahoma's offense is just all that. I just think their defense is phenomenal. And if Auburn can't find a way to establish what they want to do on the offensive side of the football, I think it'll be a long day. Going to have to lean on Jarquez. Y'all know that. We've covered that. We've hammered that. Uh, but their defense is insane against the run. So they've only allowed one run 10 yards or more all season, I believe is what Hugh Freeze said in his presser yesterday. So it's going to be, tough sledding for sure for Auburn. Um, Oklahoma's offense, they got a lot of question marks too. They really don't really know what their identity is. What are they? We'll find that out. Can Auburn's defense stop that, snuff them out? We'll see. I don't like Auburn's chances. I think Oklahoma's going to win the game. If Auburn cannot turn the ball over, I think it's a close game. If Auburn turns the ball over, it's a blowout. Probably going to end up like Penn State a couple years ago.
Yeah, kind of looking at this game. I mean, I think it's with these defenses, with the way Oklahoma's O line's playing. Um, I think Auburn can hold them in check. I think with Michael Hawkins going in there, get his first start. I think kind of like Taylor Green, him being able to extend some things with his legs, the way their offensive line's playing. I mean, I think that's going to be helpful to them. They're going to kind of need that. Obviously, their defense playing at elite level. I mean, it's a really, really good defense. Um, so I think it's going to be hard for Auburn to put touchdowns on the board. I think obviously if they can limit the turnovers, they'll they've been moving the ball pretty well. Just got to cut down on that. I do think for this game, I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like going forward. I just think with what Peyton Thorne can give you mobility wise, I just think he's the best bet to win this game. As far as the rest of them and the rest of the way, I really don't have any idea how they're going to play that necessarily. But I do think for this game and just kind of what you saw in the Arkansas game, I think Peyton Thorne's mobility can gives them a better chance to win this game against this Oklahoma defense. So, yeah, I think if Auburn can limit turnovers, I think they got a chance to win this game. Honestly, I would not be shocked if they did. I think that's just college football for you. I think it's going to be a really close, low scoring type of game, but I'll take Oklahoma with their defense and having a little more mobility at quarterback. I mean, obviously, I think first start on the road, not easy to play in. But I think he did earn a lot of the trust of his teammates. The way he put his body on the line in this Tennessee game made some things happen. No regard for himself. It was fun to watch, and I think he'll definitely his mobility is going to help them out the way he can extend plays. But yeah, I'll take Oklahoma in a tight game. I think. I do think Auburn will limit the turnovers a little bit better. I don't think they're going to turn over 5 times in a row consecutive weeks. That'd be terrible. But I do think Thorne's mobility gives them a better chance in this game, particularly.
Yeah, I think it'll be Thorne. I think it'll be Thorne the rest of the way through. Um, but I do have a little betting line I do like right now. Arkansas is going into Texas A&M, and they open as a 4-point underdog. Um, Now, again, Auburn didn't turn the ball over 5 times. Arkansas might get beat fairly bad. If Arkansas doesn't turn the ball over, throw 2 interceptions, they might beat Auburn even worse than what they did. I get that, but I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this Texas A&M team. I haven't since the beginning of the year. I know they're ranked another 3-1, but I just don't think that they're what everybody else thought they were coming into the year. And I think that they'll beat Arkansas, but I don't think it's going to get ugly. And I think Arkansas potentially could win this game, but I think they take them down to the wire and it's a, late second, or a late game field goal or a late score that brings you within going up 1 or 2. I think it's going to be a close game. I think Arkansas gives them all they want. I think Texas A&M wins, but I think Arkansas keeps it within that number.
Yeah, it's going to be a really intriguing game. I mean, I feel like two pretty even teams. The way A&M was able to run it, in the swamp against Florida, I don't with the Arkansas defensive front, Landon Jackson and those guys. Like I don't think they're going to be able to have that kind of success. I mean, curious. I'm not sure about Connor Wigman's status. If he may be healthy enough to play, but Marcel Reed's played pretty well, so it may kind of curious to see how they handle that situation if Wigman is indeed healthy enough to play. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a really tight game. I think last time ever in Jerry World, I believe. So, yeah, gonna be a fun one, Southwest Classic. Yeah, I'm like you though. I think Arkansas has a really good chance to win this game. I mean, what Taylor Green can do with his legs and being able to extend plays. Obviously, turnovers you can never predict that. You can never, that's a unpredictable variable in football games that you can't predict. But yeah, I think it's going to go right down to the wire, one possession game. Yeah, I think Arkansas's got a good chance to win it, but I'll probably go A&M in a real close one. Um, the numbers at A&M -4 right now. I feel like that's about right. I think. But yeah, it's going to be a good one there in Dallas.
All right, and then I'd like to take a moment of silence for Mississippi State. Thank you. They're taking on Texas this week. Enough said.
Took my hat off for that.
And then the game everyone wants to talk about. The game that we've gotten so many times over the last few years and only one time in the regular season. This is the championship matchup in the regular season. The Dogs coming down to Tuscaloosa to take on the Tide.
And
DeBoer's first SEC game is against a top 3 team in the nation, 2-time national championship winner. The Georgia Bulldogs and Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart's been in 3 national championship games, bunch of SEC championship games. When he loses, it's to Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Well, the Crimson Tide, same logo, same team, same uniforms, led by a new face, Kalen DeBoer. What is going to happen on Saturday, Cameron Gossett?
man, I can't obviously. I mean, it goes without saying. Can't wait for this matchup. I mean, this is all that. I mean, this is exactly what you would expect and want college football to be. I mean, these kind of matchups, that's what you live for. I mean, there's nothing better than a SEC Saturday night when you got 2 big time teams going at it, top 5 ranked teams. Championship implications. Oh, I know it's different now with the 12-team playoff, but when these teams meet, there's big implications on the line. So no different in this game. I mean, it goes a long way for SEC championship ramifications, playoff seeding potentially. I mean, obviously could get this game again, possible certainly. But yeah, Saturday night in Bryant-Denny Stadium, Alabama, Georgia doesn't get much better than that. That's what you want college football to be. Kind of the keys to this game. I mean, both teams coming off a bye week. I think I like what I saw from Alabama's offensive line against Wisconsin, getting healthy, getting the starting 5 that you kind of expected from early on. Thought it's big getting a game with those 5 under their belt, healthy, performing at a really high level. I was impressed the way Caden Proctor played. First time he played a game since January and stuff, and taking an extended spring break in Iowa and coming back and all that. Love the way that offensive line played. Georgia's defensive line was banged up in that Kentucky game, which was a reason why it was as close as it was. I would expect those guys back, but I'm not 100% sure of the status. I think Alabama can run it on them better than people expect. I think when you add Jalen Milroe in the run game as well, and you've seen Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan lean heavily on that, and I think you're going to see that obviously to the 10th degree in this game. They're going to lean into that heavily. I think Georgia's got a chance to run the ball as well. I mean, there's a lot of questions about kind of a newer defensive scheme. Can teams run the ball a little bit better? Obviously, Georgia's really physical. I think they're going to be able to run the ball some as well. Their offensive line hasn't played quite what you would expect so far. Tate Ratledge is out, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. He had the tightrope surgery on his ankle, so he's out this game, which will hurt some for them. Um, I do think that offensive line's going to round into form. It just hasn't quite been to the level that you kind of expect Georgia so far. I think the big key for Alabama, obviously, need to get that run game going. And when Georgia kind of adjusts to that, that's when Milroe's got to take advantage in the passing game. You're going to have to, I know Alabama, obviously, one of the more explosive offenses in the country, hitting big plays down the field. You're going to have some of those against Georgia because you're not going to make a living driving it 12, 15 plays down their throat over and over all night long. Like, you're going to have some explosives in there. Those are the type of offenses that, can stay with Georgia and beat Georgia is the ones that can be explosive in the passing game, good in the running game. So I think, they're going to have to hit some plays down the field as well because you're not going to make a living all night just driving down the field on. That's kind of been Alabama's MO so far this year. They've been more of a big play offense than a driving down the field offense. I think they're going to have to be able to do both. How much pressure can they get to Carson Beck on the defensive side? You've seen when we've talked about when he's in rhythm and he's on time and he's got clean pockets, going to be a long night for you. I mean, you got to knock him off of his spot. You've got to make him move his feet in the pocket a little bit, reset his kind of launch point, if you will. That's when he can, force the ball a little more inaccurate. I mean, that's typical from all quarterbacks. Obviously, you get a little more pressure on them. I went back and forth on this. Honestly, I think I just don't see a scenario where it's not a one-score game. It may not be that way. I just don't see a scenario in my head right now where it's more than a one-score game any way you slice it. But in the words of Pat McAfee, give me Alabama. I think the Bryant-Denny crowd obviously is going to play a factor. I think it's going to be it should be as loud as maybe it's ever been. I think it kind of compares to that 2019 LSU game. That was such a huge matchup. This is in that same realm there. I'll go with Alabama in a close one. Kind of it's at home, but I don't really have a great feel either way. Other than I think I just see a one-score game, one way or the other. It's going to be a classic though.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to go down to the wire, or if it is a two-score game, it'll be like it was in the national championship, like a late interception or just a scrub touchdown that doesn't count. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a one-possession game, pretty much the whole game. I give my nod to Georgia, not because I'm an Auburn fan, but just solely because who's on the sidelines and who's leading them. Kirby Smart, not saying that DeBoer can't do it. Clearly, he went from a 4-8 at Washington to 11-2 and into the national championship game. Like, dude can win. He's played against some damn good coaches, some high caliber coaches, some high caliber teams, and won. No knocking that at all. Beat Texas last year, knocked off Sarkisian. I just think at this level or this moment in their careers, anytime that Saban was on the sideline, I'm riding with Saban every time because I think they're going to win because he's the greatest to do it. Well, now he's no longer coaching. Right behind him was Kirby Smart. So I can't not take the number one now anytime they're on the sidelines. It only bit me in the ass 2 or 3 times when I took Bama when Saban was on the sidelines. It ain't bit me in the ass yet when I've taken Georgia to win. Nothing on the scheme or the players or anything. It's just solely the head coach. I just think he edges him out just because I think he's been in this moment before. He's handled it before. It's not new to him. Nothing's going to be a shock or a surprise to him. And I think that gives him a leg up on DeBoer going into this game. Because whether coaches say they treat all games the same, they treat them all equal, whatever, when you get there, it's different. It's a different feel. It's a different vibe. You make different decisions in games like that. I think it's beneficial that Kirby's been in it more times than DeBoer has up to this point in their career.
I got a question kind of from an outside perspective.
Mhm.
Who do you think the most pressure is on this game? I have a pretty good
Georgia.
idea or an
Georgia,
opinion. Yeah.
100% Georgia. 1,000. Because they didn't make it to the playoff last year, which we all thought they should have, but they lost, undefeated, lost in the conference championship pretty handily. They didn't look good in that game. They got beat. They got beat. They didn't give it to them like Auburn gave it to Arkansas. They got beat by Alabama. Then they got left out. And then they're going to come back here, and it's a new coach. Some of their bigger players have left. You're expected to win this game. Number one, for revenge for last year. You hate losing to Alabama, but you've won, however, 29 in a row regular season games and all this stuff. And this is definitely going to be a ha ha, Kirby, you suck. We're still better than you. Alabama's still better than you. Kirby can't get over the hump of Alabama. He's done it one time, but he can't get over the hump of Alabama. A blind squirrel can find a nut every once in a while is what they'll say if he loses this game. Because it's not Saban anymore. It's just he just can't beat Alabama. So it's definitely more pressure on Kirby Smart and Georgia Bulldogs than it is Saban or than it is DeBoer and Alabama, because everyone is expecting Georgia to win this game because Kirby Smart is on the sidelines. There might be a few people here and there, and obviously the Alabama faithful are thinking they're going to win this game. There's probably a few people around the country thinking Alabama will win this game, but majority of people are expecting Georgia to get this done. So it's definitely more pressure on Georgia. It was like when Georgia and Bama played in the Tua, the third or second 26 or whatever. There was so much more pressure on Alabama in that game than there was Georgia, because Georgia was the up and coming guys. They hadn't established themselves yet. Bama was the guy. So Georgia's playing with house money. So it's the flip. The script is flipped now, just because of the coaches, and Kirby got left out of it last year. And what can he do this year? What's he going to do to prove that they belong this year? I know it's 12 teams, but it's 100% more pressure on Georgia, and anybody says otherwise is completely wrong.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, you look at 1-5 against Alabama. Obviously, happening when Saban was here. I mean, if he loses the first game to Alabama under DeBoer, to drop him to 1-6 after they bounced you last year, yeah, I agree 100%. That's exactly what I was thinking. Definitely more pressure on Georgia. That,
No question.
in a way, that's why I think it. Even though Alabama's like beat them more and stuff, it's like I think it continues to play in Alabama's hands a little bit more. It's like not only is it on your own field, but it's like I feel like Georgia and Alabama's got a really tough schedule the rest of the way as well, but so does Georgia. Like they got to go to Texas, they still got to play Tennessee, they go to Ole Miss. Like, I mean, yes, I think they're going to be. I think they're a playoff team. I think they're going to be in, but it's like if you lose this one in Tuscaloosa and you lose the first game to DeBoer after Saban leaves and stuff, then you still got to go play those three teams. It's like gets a little more uncomfortable, So I think, yeah, definitely more pressure on the Georgia perspective. That's why I think it kind of plays in Alabama's hands a little bit more. I just
Definitely benefits them for sure.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not shocked at any outcome in this game. Like you're saying, Georgia, as established as they are, and Alabama with a new coach and different schemes and different turnovers, like you would expect, you would expect Georgia to win this game. But I feel like the vibe of the game, or just the feeling of the game going into it, is tighter than I thought it would be. Like,
Oh yeah.
3 months ago, you know what I mean? Like I thought a lot of people were thinking Georgia, not crazy, like convincingly or anything, but it's like I feel like after we've seen both teams a little bit, and I'm sure it's maybe a little skewed because the Georgia barely beat Kentucky, and it was an off night for them, stuff like that. But it's like the matchup is like actually closer and tighter than maybe I expected it a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be a classic, man. It's going to be one of the games of the year. I think we've got a couple of those coming this year. Georgia's going to be involved in several of those. Got to go to Austin next month. By the way, I have to say, we're sitting here September 24th. That October 12th is absolutely elite. That October 19th, elite as well. Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, double header of the year. I mean, I cannot wait. These next 4 weeks, if you've never watched college football before, tune in these next 4 weeks, especially because I mean we have got some epic matchups ahead of us. It's gonna be amazing. I can't wait for Saturday. Can't wait for the rest of the way. It's gonna be awesome, man. I mean the gonna be great the rest of the way. Just I'm kind of narrowing it down to those next 3 or 4 weeks. Man, the matchups, especially within the SEC, got Oregon, Ohio State playing on the 12th. Those 2 weekends, especially, man, gonna be epic. Thank everyone for tuning in. Obviously it's been a really fun 4 weeks so far. As I just mentioned, it's going to ratchet up even that much more over the next few weeks. Just stay tuned to us here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate that. That'll help us out a lot. Um, Feel free to comment on the videos, what your thoughts are, takeaways so far, some things you want to hear about more. We'd love to get your feedback. Be sure to give us a follow too on Twitter at Saturdays_SEC. And we'll catch you guys back here next week to recap week 5 and hope y'all have a great rest of your week.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.